name's Bill Simmons. I've been with Pelican Rapids Public Schools for 15 years. And in that time, we have evolved into one-to-one K through 12. K through 6 is iPads, and 7 through 12 is Windows devices. We do have a few Chromebooks that we use for digital signage. And I have a couple of departments that are fine arts departments that would really prefer Macs. So I have the gamut there. I've got Windows devices, I've got iPads, I've got Chromebooks, and it's so nice to manage all of them on one pane of glass. And to my knowledge, FileWave is the premier choice to do that. There are still differences, of course, even though you're using one piece of software to manage devices, just because of the nature of those devices. There's some major differences in how they're managed. So I do have another tech that I can share some of that with. He has gotten very good at managing iPads, and then I do the Windows side, and then we kind of share the digital signage, which that's just something that you touch every so often, and otherwise it just runs. But it's really nice to be able to separate that, and it works well. We can still talk about things then because we're still using that same piece of software. So we do have some common threads, but we still have our niche too. The only way to manage iPads was with the iPhone configuration utility from Apple. And then the second year we used somebody else, don't even remember who that was, AirWatch maybe. And then each year iPad, or Apple rather, would develop new features in their iPads. And the management that we used the previous year just didn't work. And that was kind of frustrating because every year for those first 4 years, we used a different MDM. And eventually found FileWave, and there's been a couple of changes with iPads since then, and FileWave has been very responsive and staying on top of those changes. So it's been nice to stay with one MDM for more than 1 year, and I can really appreciate that. Probably pushing out apps to Windows devices would be the one I use the most. We do state testing every year, and every year you get a new app that you have to send out to. I just send them out to all the devices, because that way if they're sharing from, with a neighbor or a brother or a sister, the app will be there for them. And it's, in fact, just the way our state works. Once in a while, they have pushed out an app for testing that turns out doesn't work. So they have to send us another version. And it's so nice to just go in and make that change in FileWave, and I'm fairly certain that all of our devices will be updated, at least in a short amount of time. I've got roughly 500 devices, Windows devices. Well, and that's with students, and then I have staff that have Windows devices as well, but they don't need the as much care as the students. Gosh, to put one app on every student device manually, that's probably a 3-day project and 2 people for 3 days. And at least as far as my part goes, I maybe spend an hour to do the push to get that app out, and then maybe a couple more hours after that, just to see how many devices did not get the update. So we're talking 3 times 8, 24 times 2, 48 hours versus 3, maybe even 6 hours at tops. A little bit of background there. The Windows devices that we use for students in a one-to-one situation are affordable, and therefore their eMMC drive is rather small, and I do have to monitor and see how much room they have left. And that's been so easy to find. I just bring it up on FileWave and order by that column, and it'll tell me right up front how many devices that kind of need some attention. I may need to go in and remove profiles, because I mentioned that occasionally they'll share a device with a friend or a sibling, and each time they do that, it loads the other person's profile, which can erode that disk space on each device. So that's the most common thing, is removing profiles to make more space. FileWave uses a ticket system, and they handle that very well. There's usually fairly quick response when they're waiting for me to do something to move that ticket along. And once I get that done, usually, I don't know if I can get a time frame on it, but it's a short amount of time when they finally get back to me and get to the next step. I've been real pleased with responsiveness on issues that we've had. I get calls from other MDMs occasionally trying to sell their product, and ask if I can manage Apple devices and Windows devices on a similar pane of glass, or a single pane of glass. And almost 100% of the time, the answer is no. They might hesitate a little bit and not admit that right up front, but when it comes right down to it, you have to go outside their MDM to actually get into the opposite field. So if you're, in some program, some MDM that does Windows well, they'll say, yeah, we can do Macs too, but it's a different situation. To my knowledge, FileWave is the only software that really does a good job melding all those together: Chromebooks, Apple devices, and Windows devices. I've been very pleased with the pricing with FileWave. Most MDMs want to go on a device by device price, where FileWave has granted us a site license that works very well. When I buy new devices, I just make a phone call and they bump up our licenses to cover that without increasing our yearly cost.